have reached the Mike Wiley Show. This call may be recorded for training purposes, or because Bill Clinton enacted the Echelon domestic spying program in 1993 on all American citizens that Democratic senators had no problem with because Democrats only have problems when you spy on terrorists. For English, press 1. For Spanish, press 2. For French, press 3. For Austrian, press 4. For domestic terrorism, contact Bill Ayers at the White House switchboard. For treason, contact Barack Obama at the White House switchboard. For surrender, contact Hillary Rodham Clinton at the White House switchboard. For military intelligence, contact the editor of Rolling Stone magazine. For income tax avoidance, contact Timothy Geithner on his cell phone. And for today's joke of the day, contact Joe Biden directly at 811. To repeat this menu, press 9. For Mike Wiley, press number 6.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
Faster than a speeding typewriter. More powerful than a printing press. Able to speak over tall buildings in a single sound. Look, up on the dial.
It's a conservative. It's a liberal.
It's Supermouth. Yes, it's Supermouth, strange visitor from the past with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal talk show hosts. Supermouth, who can change the course of local politics, bend ears with his bare mouth, and who, disguised as Mike Wiley, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan radio show, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
And welcome to another adventure in the podcast radio. I am the former evil radio talk show host, now evil podcast host. Today, we've got some issues to discuss. We have a problem in this country right now, if you haven't noticed it. We've had a problem in the country since April 14th, 1865, and it's never really changed. That's my belief, that the war between the states has never ended, and that the Democratic Party has developed and has continued to keep what we refer to as a modus operandi. Let me just read to you about modus operandi. Modus operandi, a particular way of method of doing something, especially one that is characteristic or well established. Okay? Well established. What's well established about what the Democrats do? Now let's see. The modus operandi is a Latin phrase meaning mode of operating, is an identifying characteristic of a behavioral pattern. A Latin phrase meaning mode of operating. In criminal law, modus operandi refers to a method of operation or pattern of criminal behavior. So distinctive that you can pick it out with a straw. We're talking about the Democrats. What is the Democrats' modus operandi? To never allow a Republican president who has shown great strength in terms of the voting public to get anything accomplished. All right, we have a history that we've done shows on this before, but please just let me give you a quick rundown of some things, okay? Now, I'm going to start in 1913, and in 1913, Woodrow Wilson, the Democratic president, decided that he and his progressives felt it was time to change the United States of America. And to change the United States of America, you have to change the Constitution, because the Constitution is law in this country to those who believe in the law. Democrats have proven time and time again they don't believe in the Constitution. We're going to show you videos today of different items of what the Democrats have done. I'm going to try to keep this to 60 minutes. But I've got a lot to present to you. But it's very important that you understand this, because I'm going to come up with a concept today. You're going to go, what? But my concept is strong and true, and I think it may be the only way to do something. Now, it's just been found out that Chuck Schumer says he's going to vote for the Republican bill for continuing resolution to keep the government going. However, the progressives in the Democratic Party, those are the communist pinko scumbags, and there's about at least a little over 100 of them out of the 215 Democrats that are destroying the nation, aren't going to go for it, but it's possible that there could be 7 or 8 pro-American Democrats, there's still some left, that make common sense and may vote for it. If that is, that's good. However, there are things going on with regard to federal judges that are an issue. Okay? Now, we saw federal judges go after Trump to try to make it seem like he was a criminal. That didn't work. All that did was got him more money, got him more popularity, and he won the election in a somewhat landslide. To me, a landslide is 49 states, like Ronald Reagan did. Okay, Ronald Reagan won a landslide, 49 states in 1980, and 3 months later, the Democrats tried to kill him. Richard Nixon, in 1972, he won re-election by a landslide, 49 states. In the month of May, he was at 19 percentage points in polls against McGovern. So everybody knew it was over. But the Democrats still had to do something about it, so they came up with the Watergate fraud and scam and used that to force an impeachment against Richard Nixon in order for them to stop him because he committed a crime. He's a Republican who won 49 states. Okay, Republicans aren't allowed to win landslides. Democrats believe that we should be enslaved in a tax system. So in 1913, they voided a good chunk of the Constitution and came up with a direct tax, which is illegal, the 16th Amendment, and that's a financial slavery program so that they can suck about $100 trillion out of us since then and use that money for whatever they want. Usually it's for war and for graft and whatever. Okay, we're finding out now with the Doge that the Democrats have been involved in an awful lot of criminal activity, financial fraud, and we've also seen this thing now about Act Blue. Okay, they're now tracking back Act Blue and finding out that money's coming into Act Blue, but not by the people that they say have been donating, and that's a big fraud situation. So the Democrats are in pretty tough shape, and maybe that's why Schumer decided he's going to support this bill, because right now the Democrats can't afford to piss 99% of the people off. Right now they've only pissed off about 94% of the American people. So we'll see what happens with that. But just in case, we have an issue. And the issue is that Republican presidents are not allowed to be able to enforce their presidencies. Republican presidents are not allowed to get what they want done. All right? That's been time and time again. And we've seen it. We've seen it with Trump, and now we're seeing it again. They're going after him. Now they're using federal judges to say, hey, wait a minute, just because you're president of the United States doesn't mean you get to act under Article 2 of the Constitution, even though it says you're the main executor of the country and you get to run the country the way you want to. No, we're going to find these federal judges put in by Obama or Clinton that basically state, no, you can't do that. You can't fire these people. You have to rehire them all. You can't do this. You can't do that. Basically, you're a Republican. You can't do shit. Just sit there, Trump, and wait till your time's over, and then we're done with you. And then we'll try to go after the next Republican that wins in a semi or landslide. That's the way these people are. Okay? They tried to assassinate Trump. That didn't work. They tried to impeach Trump twice. That didn't work. So what we're doing today is I'm going to give you a concept of what I think we have to actually do to fix this problem and get it fixed right, because we're running out of time. We're running out of time. So let me just give you a couple of thoughts, and then I'm going to begin introducing you to some videos of people who have presented certain things, as some videos of the Democrats acting up the way they do. So, problems of the Republic. We have an enemy of the Republic that refuses to follow the Constitution, and many times this act, as an act of war, written for their criminal use. These are Democrats. We have Marxist federal judges who believe they are above Article 2 and that they believe that they are endowed by Odin to stop Trump. We have Marxist Chuck Schumer who pleads against government shutdown when the Republicans are in power, but it's okay for them to try to shut the government down. You see, the laws don't exist for Republicans. And the Democrats believe that they have been endowed by the gods of Olympus to run the country, and that's the name of that tune. We have Democrat states that always get together and attack Trump. All right, in 2016, 2017, they went after Trump because he wanted to protect the border. Trump wanted to spend $5 billion to build a wall. And the Democrats said, no, you can't have $5 billion. And 16 states sued Trump to be able to not be able to build the wall because it was going to cost $5 billion. They didn't try to stop Biden from letting in 18 million illegals, which only cost us $157 billion. That's just a little bit more than $5 billion, wouldn't you believe? So what we have is a government that doesn't work. We have a government that doesn't work. And it's gotten to the point where we are in what I call the bankruptcy zone. The Democrats forced the USA into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. $5 trillion in assets, $45 trillion in debt. Now, my career of 50 years, I was a CFO, a chief financial officer. I was a controller. I was an accountant. I was a forensic accountant for law issues. But most of my time has been running businesses, making them profitable, showing the owners how to save money, how to build a financial base, how to improve their balance sheet. And I'll give you a quick for instance. I was hired by this company in Las Vegas to come in and work 25 hours a week at $25 an hour to do the accounting. Now, they had just terminated a guy that was there full-time making $62,000 a year. They didn't want to pay for that. But I needed work, so I came in, and they were in bankruptcy. They had already filed for bankruptcy because why? Why do companies go bankrupt? Because the people running them don't know what they're doing, don't understand financial management, operating management, and they start going down the toilet, even though their operation has great potential. So one of the problems was they needed somebody to buy them, but nobody was buying them. You know, their financial statements looked like, pardon the expression, shit. So, but now I'm here and I'm in charge of the financial statements because I'm the only financial person in the company now. And so I'm looking at the financials, I look at everything, and I notice that, well, nobody's going to buy the company because it's in bankruptcy, and therefore it's got no money. But the company did have $250 million on average in the bank. They just weren't showing it because they weren't allowing it to accumulate by the end of the month so that they could close out a financial statement that showed $250,000. It was $250,000. Okay. Now, $200,000 in the bank, that's fine. But $250,000 in the bank is $250,000. And $250,000 sounds a lot more than $200,000 or $250,000. Within 3 months, we got bought out. Okay. The financial people in New York and these people in Miami saw the numbers and went over everything, and they found out that things really weren't as bad as they said they were, because I was presenting it in a professional light that evidently these people didn't understand. And so the company got bought out, and my time was limited because they were bringing in some new people who didn't know what they were doing, but they were part of this consolidation. And actually, the week I was leaving to move to Florida, I got a text message from the woman that they made CFO who didn't know anything, and I was like her crutch. I always had to be there to help her. And she wanted to let me know that they had terminated her and her family in management. But that just shows that some people, we can look at financial information and tell what's going on. So I'm looking at the financial information and it says 5 trillion assets, 45 trillion in debt. That's 9 times. The debt is 9 times the amount of money we have. What's that mean? The federal government is bankrupt. It's bankrupt. So what do you do about it? What you do? You employ the bankruptcy code to get things done. Let me just read this to you. Chapter 11, bankruptcy. Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code generally provides for reorganization, usually involving a corporation or partnership. In this case, it's a corporation. In the United States, it's a corporation. A Chapter 11 debtor usually proposes a plan of reorganization to keep its business alive and pay creditors over time. Okay? We've got $45 trillion we owe. How the hell are we going to be able to pay this off over time? Oh, well, maybe we could stop spending $2 trillion more than we're getting and putting us into debt. But the Democrats keep wanting to spend $6 trillion a year when we're only making $4 trillion. So the Democrats are the problem. The Democrats, on average, when the Democrats have the control of the Congress, on average, they spend $1.1 trillion more than the budget every year they're in power. Republican Congress spend about $400 billion over that amount. So responsibility-wise, Democrats are responsible for about, I'd say, 75% of the debt, and Republicans 25%. Why are the Democrats spending us into oblivion? I believe it's because they have an agreement since 1992, 1993 with the Communist Chinese Party to do whatever they can to move Communist China into a better light and at some point in time take over financial control of the United States. Nobody wants to attack us. Nobody wants to drop nuclear bombs on us, but they want to control the country because we have great potential. Okay? Now, what's the problem? Holy shit. Everything is wonderful if you've got some political idiot running the American country. You know, from 2008 to 2016, it was this idiot named Barack Obama. Barack Obama wasn't a genius. He was a bullshit artist. Biden didn't exist because he had no brain. Everybody knew he had no brain. Everything Biden signed, which he didn't sign, it was done by AutoPen, is null and void. And that's going to happen too. So we have all these crimes that Democrats have committed over the years that we want to take care of and get them off our balance sheet. Because all Democrat crime leads to $45 trillion worth of debt. That's the issue. But how can Trump fix the country if these federal judges keep coming in and saying, hey, you can't do this. You have to rehire these people. You have to... Who the fuck are they to tell him what to do? I'm a federal judge. I have power. EDM. In bankruptcy, they can't do shit. Because what happens is if you go into bankruptcy, you go into bankruptcy court. And the bankruptcy court in Washington, D.C., which is where it would occur, Elizabeth L. Gunn is the bankruptcy judge for the District of Columbia. Now, she's not appointed by a president. She's appointed by a board. And I went and looked through the board, and there's about 6 people on the board, and about 3 or 4 of them were Republicans. So they must have liked her because they said, let's put her in. So we have a good chance with the right attorneys to get this country fixed. Why? Because when we go into bankruptcy, the Democrats can't do shit. They can't do shit. Federal judges can't do shit. Nobody can do shit. Okay? Who can do shit? The President of the United States, Mike. He's the executive power, isn't he? Ooh, yeah, he is. And the first thing the president's going to do is he's going to tell the Congress, okay, to save money, we're going to shut you guys down, okay? Because evidently the Congress of the United States has put the United States into $45 trillion in debt. The Congress is the problem. Why is the Congress the problem? Because they have all this flow of money that comes out of the United States of America, goes overseas, and comes back into their pockets. This is what Doge has found out. That's why the Democrats would love to see the federal government stopped so that they can't continue the investigation of years of $1 trillion of criminal crime. 4.7 trillion they're looking for now in just one issue. Okay, I believe they'll find, well, I know that we've overspent $3 trillion a year in the government that we didn't have to spend. Obama gave us $1 trillion of extra fat in the budget. Most of it went into what is called HHS. And then Biden, in the 4 years he was medically induced to be president, he spent $10 trillion, $2 trillion over budgets, and then there were $6.77 trillion of money spent on 3 bills. One of them was for the Green New Deal or the Green New Scam. But what I'm saying is this: we can't continue. Okay, I've been in finance, but you don't need to be a financial guru or wizard, as they used to call me, to figure out that we're in bankruptcy. Okay? Here. Now, let me just explain something to you. The oil that's under our feet, the natural gas that we have, the oil and natural gas is where trillions of dollars of income is. And the Chinese didn't want us to spend it. The Chinese wanted it kept there until they took over the country. And that's why the Democrats made sure we didn't drill for any oil. Even though we were drilling plenty of oil, we still don't know who the hell they were shipping it to, why the gas prices were so high. But we basically only have $5.6 trillion of assets, which means we probably have really $4 trillion in assets. And then we've got $45 trillion in debt, of which $28 trillion is federal debt and interest payable. And then there's $15 trillion for federal employees and veteran benefits payable. Okay, well, we're not going to eliminate the veteran benefits pay. This is what the Democrats are trying to say now, that we're going to eliminate pay for the veterans. We wouldn't do that. We're Republicans. We don't do that shit. But federal employees, well, we're going to have to cut the workforce. Hold on a second. Is Donald Trump already ahead of the game? Oh, shit, that's right. Trump's run businesses for years. He's been in bankruptcy before, so he could turn around and operate and open and fix and improve things. We don't have a politician in the White House. We have a businessman in the White House. Oh, that's right. That's why the Democrats, the anti-capitalist pigs that they are trying to stop Trump in every way can. Their job, the Democrats' job, is to put us into bankruptcy. That's the job. So, to make this short and sweet, let me read something to you. Approximately 30 of the 100 lawsuits, they filed 100 lawsuits against Trump. 30 of the 100 lawsuits relate to Trump's immigration policies. Why would there be a suit on immigration policies? He's following immigration law. There shouldn't be any lawsuits. Okay. 20 of the cases directly challenge the actions of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. 10 of the cases challenge Trump's policies relating to transgender people. Those are gone. More than 20 cases press unilateral changes to federal funding. That's gone. Government hiring and the structure of agencies, like the USAID for International Development, that we already found out was screwing Americans, stealing money, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was a DEI scam to begin with. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau was an opportunity to take over the banking industry by making it DEI. Dumb equals intelligence. So that's quickly the financial stuff. We're in bankruptcy mode. We just haven't entered bankruptcy yet because we're trying like hell to try to get the Democratic Party to work with us. But why should they work with us? They're being paid by the Chinese to screw us over. And don't tell me that they're not. Okay? I've done shows about Obama and the Chinese Manchurians. Okay? Obama did a lot of deals for the Chinese. They gave him Afghanistan, gave him the Bagram Air Force Base. So what happens to this, just not to go into detail on this, but the organization plan is put together by Trump, and Trump can go ahead and show what government agencies need to be removed or moved to the states. Okay? So let's see. Clinton, Obama, and Obama 2. 10 trillion and 10 trillion between the two administrations of Obama, one with the puppet Biden. Okay. Now, what do we need to keep? Well, we need to keep the Justice Department and the FBI, and we need to keep the CIA and the Department of Development, Intelligence, and IDN with Tulsi Gabbard. We need to keep a defense budget, and we need to keep Treasury, and we need to keep Doge. Okay? We can get rid of the Department of Education, move it to the states. Let the states run the schools. They know how to run them better than the teachers' unions, which have been siphoning money and were originally created by Jimmy Carter as a program so that he could get money back and donations from the new unions created and create a new union. Government unions need to be eliminated because all they do is they cost us more money. And it's actually a violation. It's a violation because it's they're taking money from us and then they're trying to tell it, and they're using that money to make their own laws through their own congressional people. It's a scam. Okay, we're going to privatize NASA. Okay, privatize NASA. There's enough companies that will be interested in space. We let them run it, but what we do is we have an oversight of NASA from a government standpoint. But we have no more NASA expenditures and everything. We can rent out all the facilities and generate income that way. Okay, Medicaid. Medicaid moves to the states. Right now, 90% of Medicaid is paid for by the federal government. That's wrong. Okay, why? Because Medicaid is for people who are poor. Why do we have poor people in this country? Ask the Democrats. That's part of their deal. HHS, Health and Human Services. $1 trillion was added into HHS when Barack Obama became president. He built that puppy up, and then at his time, HHS was getting more money than defense the budget. Defense has gone up to $800 billion. HHS is $2 trillion. Yet go back and you see where defense spending was more than HHS. What the hell happened? Health and Human Services. It's the flow of federal money to the states to give them money. Okay, you have blue states like California, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, New York, Minnesota, Colorado, and they're sucking the federal government dry of money thanks to the Democrats. That's part of the scam. HUD. Okay, urban housing and urban development. Why is the United States involved with that? The states should be. The states have the properties. They should be running it. Okay, we're going to get rid of the IRS. We don't need the IRS. The IRS is a scam. The IRS has always been a scam. ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Well, the FBI can keep track of firearms, and alcohol and tobacco should be removed and given to the states. And also let the states keep all the taxes on alcohol and tobacco. The federal government doesn't need that alcohol and tobacco money. Give it to the states. That gives the states more opportunity to be able to manage everything. Okay? We're going to terminate the 16th Amendment. That's a crime. It shouldn't even exist. But somehow the Supreme Court back in 1913 said, yeah, go ahead, it's okay. 17th Amendment. All right, now, what's the 17th Amendment? The 17th Amendment provides for the enrichment of 100 pieces of shit every 6 years. You see, the way the founding fathers started this, they wanted to make sure that the people were represented by the House of Representatives, and that's why they get reelected every 2 years, so they're closer to the people. They have to come back every 2 years and say, hey, vote for me again. And if they don't do what you like, you shit can them and put in somebody else. The Senate is supposed to be representing the states. But how can the Senate be representing the states if the Senate isn't created? If the Senate isn't, if the states aren't putting in the people for the Senate every 6 years like they used to. Before the 17th Amendment, the average amount of time a senator was in the Senate, 6.2 years. Okay, now it's like 30 years. And the other part is, when the states put 2 senators into the Senate, it didn't cost any money. They chose people. People didn't have to run for Senate, they were chosen. And then usually every 6 years they came back and somebody else was chosen. But now we set it up, or the Democrats set it up, the progressive Democrats set it up, so that you have a group of 100 millionaires. And 100 millionaires trying to be billionaires, and all their contacts and whatever. It's the rich person's department, the Senate. I got pissed off one day when I was thinking about running up in Massachusetts against Markey, and they told me that you should plan to try to raise at least $25 million. And my first response was, I would never spend $25 million on a U.S. Senate campaign. Why? Because if I had $25 million and I spent it on a U.S. Senate campaign instead of spending the money on helping veterans, feeding the poor. Yeah, I know these are all social issues, but you know what? $25 million can do more for people than it can for one frickin' campaign. And that's when it hit me. You got to be wealthy. You got to be rich. It's the Senate of Rome. It's the Senate of Rome. These people have to be rich. Okay, $25 million means you have to have a lot of rich friends. And therefore, the Senate of the United States doesn't represent the states. It represents rich people all around the globe. That's wrong. And that's why the 17th Amendment needs to go. And so that's why I state that when you enter into Chapter 11, you immediately terminate the Congress of the United States. You tell the senators, go home, you're done. You tell the congressmen, go home, you're done. We're not going to need you. Okay? In 2026, those that want to become part of the Congress in 2026, they can go ahead and run for office. But no more senators are going to run for office for the U.S. Senate. The states are going to take that back. And the Senate will be chosen 2 people per state. So 2 people per state is 100 senators. They'll bring them in. There's no more spending trillions and billions of dollars electing senators, wealthy people. Okay, I'll give you, for instance, Patty Murray. Patty Murray is one of the sharpest bulbs in the toolkit if you're putting in bulbs for underground rabbit holes. She's been in Senate for 30 years, and she just got reelected for a 6th term. She's a gym teacher. Would you hire a gym teacher to run your business? Would you hire a gym teacher to manage the finances of your company? Would you hire a gym teacher to make decisions about what the federal government's supposed to be doing? Of course not. But this is what the Democrats do. The Democrats try to put as many stupid people into office that will bow down to the 1 or 2 people that run the Democratic Party. That's what we've been seeing. That's what's been going on. That shit stops. I believe that Chapter 11 bankruptcy would protect Donald Trump from any interference once he puts a plan together and gets it approved by the bankruptcy court. Nobody can screw with him. And anyone that knows about bankruptcy is Donald Trump. Okay? Because when you go for the big bucks, sometimes the cash flow just doesn't meet things right away, and you have to go into temporary bankruptcy to go ahead and reschedule yourself and bring yourself back out of bankruptcy. That's the purpose for Chapter 11. If you've got assholes that are spending 9 times as much money as you have, you got to get rid of the assholes. Congress of the United States. That's who you have to get rid of. No more senators representing millionaires. We want senators to come in that represent the states. No more of these $1 million campaigns, okay? One of the reasons why they hated me was in 1994 when I ran for U.S. Senate, I spent a total of $15,000. They were like, what? How can this guy run a campaign on $15,000 and get 39 out of 67 counties in the state of Florida vote for him? He's like 5 minutes away from being the next senator. Hey, yeah, look, send Hillary down and get rid of Wiley. Go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, Wiley's Jewish. Go ahead. Yeah, we know how you like Jewish people. Go get him. That was when the beginning of the split between the Democratic Party of labor, son and grandson of Teamsters here, and the wealthy elites. And they're still the wealthy elites. And so what we're going to do is, I think I've covered enough to give you an idea of what has to be done. Okay? Also, we should extend the Trump presidency to 2030. And the reason why I say 2030 is that it's adding 2 years. Basically, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, the Democrats stole 4 years of the United States from having Donald Trump as president. They put us into such a hole that we have to claim bankruptcy. But what we need is to have Trump for another 2 years. Not another 4, but another 2 years, which gives him 2030, 2025. It basically gives him 5 to 6 more years, 5 years actually, to fix this bankruptcy problem. And if there's anybody in the country that knows how to fix the bankruptcy problem, it's Donald Trump. Why waste any time on any kind of presidential election in 2028? Well, we need to have Trump extend himself 2 more years. That 2 more years plus 3 is 5, not counting the year he's in now. That's what we need to do. That's in the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Okay? The Chapter 11 bankruptcy is saying, okay, we were dumbbells. All right? We let the Democrats destroy the nation. Now we're going to fix it. But they won't allow us to fix it, no matter where judges from all over the country and whatever the Democrats can do to stop us. It's their modus operandi. Now, modus operandi. I can hear the sound of the plow guys coming with their little machines trimming stuff. Okay, we're going to show you a series of videos. Tulsi Gabbard, Milton Friedman's going to explain to you why the Great Depression was a myth that I've told you before. The Great Depression was created between the Democratic Party and... Hold on. Okay, where were we before we were interrupted by the 3-year cleaning of the 700 pounds of leaves on top of the carport? All right, so I've basically explained to you about Chapter 11 and what I think we should do. I could be all wet, but Logic to me dictates that there's a potential to do that, um, and that can be done, and that would give President Trump the Article 2 powers that he has that the Democrats don't want to give him. That's one of the reasons why Chapter 11 is required, because the Democrats have forced us into Chapter 11 bankruptcy, because they're the ones spending all the damn extra money, and they're the ones preventing us from getting it fixed. Why? Because they've been siphoning money out of the government for years. And now they find out that Act Blue, their large Democratic program, has been taking money from billionaires and millionaires and funneling it through the Act Blue program under different people's names. Matter of fact, there was one grandmother, somehow she's on $2,000 a month Social Security, but she's been able to donate like $186,000. So you figure that one out. So to wrap this up, I'm going to show you videos of Tulsi Gabbard first. She's going to explain why she left the Democratic Party. Then I'm going to show you Milton Friedman, and he's going to explain why the Great Depression was a myth, and that it should never have happened. If worst case scenario, it would have been just a correction matter in the bull market of 3 straight election wins of the Republicans, and that was the problem for the Democrats. Is they had lost a landslide in 1920, 1924, 1928. They couldn't stand for it any longer. They had 2 major problems. Number one, black people were making too much money on their own. From 1900 to 1930, the great golden age of black entrepreneurship and enterprise, the Democrats had to end that. They wanted to get the blacks back into the party, but they wanted to make them slaves, but this time financial slaves, which is what they did. Then there's 2 fake impeachments, and you're going to hear from the 2 main defenders of Trump in these impeachments, where they go over specifically the criminal activity that's been performed by the Democrats to try to present a true impeachment, which they weren't. Then you're going to hear from Alan Dershowitz, who's going to basically explain that in the first impeachment, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress are dog shit and should always be considered dog shit and would never be grounds for an impeachment. Then we're going to have, there's a Trump prosecutor, you know, on the lawfare. And Matt Gaetz interviews him under oath about questions about what's going on, and the whole time he pleads the Fifth Amendment, which means he couldn't tell the truth, otherwise he would be putting himself in jail along with the rest of the Democratic Party. You're going to listen to Democrat Whip Clark. She's a lunatic from Massachusetts. She was successful in turning her son into a woman. And she's going to explain to you why the Democrats are so wonderful and Republicans suck. Actually, she has it backwards. She tells everybody that the Democrats are doing what the Republicans are actually doing, and that the Democrats are actually doing what the Republicans, she says the Republicans are doing. She has it ass backwards. So that basically gives you enough evidence to understand the modus operandi of the Democratic Party, going back to 1913. It's been that long. I mean, you can go back to 1865. They just weren't as, they kind of put up with the fact that Republicans were running everything. For some reason, the country runs well when Republicans are running it. I don't know why. When Democrats are running it, we go into wars. We go into debt. They get wealthy, we get poor. That's what's going on. It has to stop, okay? Now, they could sit back and just let Trump do his thing, but they can't, because Trump will make things so wonderful that a Republican's going to win the election in 2028, and then a Republican's going to win an election in 2032, and then the Democrats are back to where they were before they pulled off the Great Depression fake with the aid of the Federal Reserve. Basically and simple. I'll let Milton Friedman explain it to you, but it was a farce. Think of all the damage done to the American people by the Democrats, and they didn't give a shit. They don't give a shit about the American people. They give a shit about themselves. They're only here for themselves. There are power-hungry, elitist scumbags. And I'm going to introduce you to Tulsi Gabbard now. I hope you know who she is. She's now in charge of D&I and Intelligence Department and Department of National Intelligence. And she's a lieutenant colonel of the National Guard. She fought over in Iraq and Afghanistan, and she's a wonderful person. Everybody loves her except the Democrats. Well, you know what? That's too bad. That's too bad. But you're going to hear from her first, and then you'll hear from these other people. I'm not going to introduce them. I'm just going to let that run through one by one, and you'll see what's going on. Matter of fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll put in a little title ahead of when they're speaking to explain what they're talking about. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, look, this afternoon or tonight, maybe the Democrats will allow the government to continue, but Doge is going to continue. I think Donald Trump is then going to turn around and tell these federal judges who think they're in charge of the country and not Trump to go shove it up their ass. Okay, Trump doesn't like to do that. Trump likes to follow the law, which means he'll allow them to stop him for about 5 to 10 minutes. But he's not hiring any of these fucking people back. He's not, pardon the expression. He'll file the appeal, and he's not doing anything until the appeal is heard. It's basically a stay to the Democrats and their plans to destroy the United States. We could be seeing finally the end of the Democratic Party, which will then become the Progressive Party, because the progressives are the lunatic communist scumbags signed up with the China. There are maybe there's 25 American Democrats in the Congress of the United States between the Senate and the House, mostly in the House because the Senate is only allowed to have millionaires. And that's the name of that too. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you learn from it. And I don't know what our next show is going to be. We've covered everything else. Matter of fact, I'm in the process of going through all my videos, and I'm going to put them into summary shows of about 45 minutes, and then have them on Rumble and YouTube, which is where you can see my shows. Okay? I love you. Bye.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite.
The way I see it now is that we pick ourselves up and we fight back. That's what I think it's all about. We stand up and we fight back. We do not back down. We do not compromise, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You can either lie down, you can whimper, you can pull up in a ball, you can decide to move to Canada, or you can stand your ground and fight back.
As Democrats, we have been focused and have been successful in growing our economy by growing the middle class. Lowering healthcare costs, making sure that we are addressing climate change, having safer communities.
There is hardly any view that is more widespread than the view that somehow or other the Great Depression was produced by a failure of private business. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The Great Depression was produced, in my opinion, and I may say this is not a random opinion. I will be glad to refer you to a several hundred-page book in which it is documented. I won't tell you who the author is. Mr. Eccles did that. It was produced, the Great Depression was produced by a failure of government, by a failure of monetary policy. It was produced by a failure of the Federal Reserve System to act in accordance with the intentions of those who established it. It was produced by a failure of the Federal Reserve System despite the presence of knowledge on the part of many of the people in the system about the right course of action. Even at the depth of the Depression in 1933, when, in the spring of that year, the Federal Reserve System, which had been established in order to prevent banking panics and keep banks from closing, when the Federal Reserve System itself closed its doors, and you had a banking holiday for 7 days, and when, over the previous 3 years, a third of the banks of this country closed their doors and went broke because, in my opinion, of the poor policy followed by the Federal Reserve System. But as an objective scholar, I can tell you what the facts are. The facts were that from 1929 to 1933, the total quantity of money in the United States, the amount of currency, the amount of bank deposits, what Mr. Eccles referred to as M2, that total amount of money declined by 1/3. The total number of banks went down by 1/3. And why did the quantity of money decline? It declined because the Federal Reserve System failed to prevent the decline. The Federal Reserve System could have prevented the decline at all times. There never was a moment during that period when the Federal Reserve did not have the power to prevent the decline in the quantity of money. If it had prevented the decline in the quantity of money, you might still have had a recession, but it would have been a garden variety recession. It would have been over in the middle of 1930 or early in 31 at the latest. It would not have been the major catastrophe, not only for this country but throughout the rest of the world. So the Great Depression was not produced by a failure of business. On the contrary, it was produced by a failure of government, and a failure of government in an area in which responsibility had been assigned to government since the founding of this country. The Constitution of the United States. It gives Congress the power to coin money and set the value thereof. And it was in the management of this fundamental function of government that government failed and produced the Great Depression.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Senate, Leader McConnell, Democratic Leader Schumer. It's also my privilege to represent the President of the United States before this chamber. Senator Schumer said earlier today that the eyes of the founders are on these proceedings. Indeed, that's true. But it is the heart of the Constitution that governs these proceedings. And what we just heard from Manager Schiff, courts have no role, privileges don't apply. What happened in the past, we should just ignore. In fact, Manager Schiff just said, try to summarize my colleague's defense of the president. He said it not in those words, of course, which is not the first time Mr. Schiff has put words into transcripts that did not exist. Mr. Schiff also talked about a trifecta. I'll give you a trifecta. During the proceedings that took place before the Judiciary Committee, the president was denied the right to cross-examine witnesses. The president was denied the right to access evidence. and the president was denied the right to have counsel present at hearings. That's a trifecta that violates the Constitution of the United States.
To doubt the evidence the House managers have put before us. Let me say this clearly. We have reason to believe the House managers manipulated evidence and selectively edited footage. If they did, and this were a court of law, they would face sanctions from the judge. I don't raise this issue lightly. Rather, it is a product of what we have found in just the limited time we have had since we first saw the evidence here with you this week. We have reason to believe that the House managers created false representations of tweets, and the lack of due process means there was no opportunity to review or verify the accuracy. Consider these facts. The House managers, proud of their work on the snap impeachment, staged numerous photo shoots of their preparations. In one of those, Manager Raskin is seen here at his desk reviewing two tweets side by side. The image on his screen claims to show that President Trump had retweeted one of those tweets. Now, members of the Senate, let's look closely at this screen, because obviously Manager Raskin considered it important enough that he invited the New York Times to watch him watching it. Now, what's wrong with this image? Actually, there are three things very wrong with it. Look at the date on the very bottom of the screen on Manager Raskin's computer screen when we zoom into the picture. The date that appears is January 3rd, 2020, not 2021. Why is that date wrong? Because this is not a real screenshot that he's working with. This is a recreation of a tweet, and you got the date wrong when you manufactured this graphic. You did not disclose that this is a manufactured graphic and not a real screenshot of a tweet. Now, to be fair, the House managers caught this error before showing the image on the Senate floor, so you never saw it when it was presented to you. Words matter, they told you, but they selectively edited the president's words over and over again. They manipulated video, time-shifting clips, and made it appear the president's words were playing to a crowd when they weren't. Let's take a look.
After this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down to the Capitol. But I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's a great honor for me to stand before you today to present a constitutional argument against the impeachment and removal not only of this president, but of all and any future presidents who may be charged with the unconstitutional grounds of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. I will argue that our Constitution and its terms, high crimes and misdemeanors, do not encompass the two articles charging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protesters.
Peaceful protest.
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 Yes! Oh, yes! Oh, yes!